Sup guys, it's Alex here and welcome to the first Bracketology update of February. We are getting into the thick of the college basketball season and man, I couldn't be more freaking pumped for college basketball right now. Super Bowl Sunday is happening on Sunday and finally we can get our attention off of football, which I love football. I'm a Colts fan and all that stuff, but college basketball is what I love to focus on. And Bracketology season is right around the corner. We have like a month and 2 weeks left until Selection Sunday, which is my favorite day of the year. But either way, take a look here at all the movement in the Bracketology. And actually, before I take a look here at the different movements and stuff like that, kind of analyze the bracket, I've been getting a lot of questions about how you can create the Excel bracket that I've been using. What you can do is if you go to Google, type in Excel bracket right there. This will be the second one that pops up. It's this tournament bracket templates for Excel 2020 March Madness. If you click that link right there from Vertex 42, it'll bring you to the bracket here, but it'll say like 2020 Men's Basketball Championship bracket, and I'll have all the teams from 2020 there. But all you got to do is you got to change the team names here to what it is in Bracketology, whatever you're using, like Jerry Palm, Joe Lunardi, or whatever. Just change the names, type in Gonzaga for the #1 overall seed right there, because they'll probably be the #1 seed, and you can just edit it from there on out. But either way, if we go back here to the Bracketology, we have a ton of movement, as you can see right there. Take a look at that. But the game that I am looking forward to the most tonight, and it's going to have a huge impact on the bracket, is Baylor versus Texas. Man, this is going to be a great game. Baylor could lose their first game of the season here. If Texas can get a huge win, that would be huge for their tournament resume. It may put them back on that 1 seed line right there. I think they're the last #2 seed as of right now. If Baylor loses, then they'll probably, they should still remain a 1 seed. They're losing to like the #6 team in the nation, or whatever that is, and probably Villanova will end up getting bumped. But either way, if we take a look here at the bracket, we have over there in Region 1, we have Drake now moving up to an 8 seed, undefeated. They are my favorite kind of sleeper team, but if they keep going up in the bracket, I don't know if you can call them a sleeper anymore. Then North Carolina is up to a 9. They have seemed to right the ship so far this season. Kansas down to a 5. They are a team that has not righted the ship. They just lost to Oklahoma this past week. I think they lost to somebody else this weekend too. I can't remember, but either way, they are now down to a 5. Missouri is down to a 4. UCLA down to a 6. Got Arkansas and Seton Hall as a playing game right there. Iowa down to a 3 after losing to Illinois. Rutgers up to a 7. They're starting to pick up some wins here. They were down to an 11 seed at one point in that kind of bubble territory, but now find themselves back up to a 7. And we have Clemson down to a 10. Taking a look at Region 2, we got Baylor remaining the 1 seed over there. Xavier up to an 8. West Virginia down to a 5. Wisconsin down to a 4. Virginia Tech up to a 6 after a big win over Virginia. Indiana down to an 11. Tennessee up to a 3. That was the game that Kansas was playing. They lost to Tennessee this past weekend in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. That was a huge win for Tennessee. Then we got USC down to a 7. Loyola Chicago as an at-large team right there. Drake is in that same conference right there. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Drake and Loyola Chicago when they play in a couple weeks. But Loyola Chicago new to the field as an at-large, and then Ohio State now up to a 2. I think that's a bit too high of a seed for Ohio State for my taste. I think they're a strong 3, maybe even a 4 if you want to say that. I just don't buy them as a 2 seed right now. Then over there in Region 3, we got Michigan remaining the 1, San Diego State up to a 9, St. Bonaventure down to a 12, Texas Tech with a huge win this last night over Oklahoma up to a 4, Purdue up to a 6, LSU down to an 11, Colorado down to a 7, UConn down to a 10, and then Cleveland State up to a 15. Then over there in Region 4, we got Villanova remaining the 1 seed, Minnesota down to an 8, Florida State down to a 5 after losing to Georgia Tech this weekend, Stanford and Colorado State right there as the playing game, Oklahoma up to a 4 after getting that huge win against Alabama, who was on like a 10 or 11 game win streak or something like that, and Oklahoma beat them. And we got Florida up to a 6, St. Louis down to an 11, Illinois up to a 3 with that huge win over Iowa that I mentioned earlier, Wofford new to the field as a 14, and Oregon down to a 10. So if we take a look here at the bubble of this tournament, we have Clemson, Indiana, St. Louis, and LSU as the last 4 byes. First 4 in are Arkansas, Stanford, Seton Hall, Colorado State. First 4 out are Maryland, Richmond, VCU, and Utah State. And then the next 4 out are Providence, Western Kentucky, Penn State, and Duke, who lost to Miami last night, so that's not a good look for them. But either way, there we have the movement in the bracket. Now it's time to make my predictions. And if you're watching this video at this point, we're about like 5 minutes in or something like that. The food item that I want you guys to comment right now, let's see, what do we want to do? How about pizza rolls? We'll just say pizza rolls. I don't know if I've done pizza or whatever, but pizza rolls, great thing to do if you're running low on time, the great food to eat. Cheap food, pizza rolls, we'll do that. So up first, we'll have obviously Gonzaga moving on past the winner of NCAA and Long Island University. Then I'll have Drake here moving on past North Carolina. You guys know, if you've been watching my recent bracketologies, that I love Drake this year. I think they can move on there past North Carolina. Then I am going to go with Kansas. I know Winthrop is also one of my favorite sleeper teams, but they did just lose. And Kansas, I know they've been on a losing streak, but I just can't imagine Kansas losing to Winthrop, especially right now. Then we're going to have Missouri moving on past Belmont. Then I'm going to go with an upset pick here. I think that Seton Hall can beat Arkansas, and then Seton Hall will beat UCLA as an 11 seed there. Then Iowa will beat Siena. Rutgers, I think, will beat Clemson, and then Texas will beat Northeastern. If I can get Texas here to move on past Northeastern, there we go. In the Sweet 16, we got Gonzaga moving on past Drake. Then we'll have Kansas moving on past Missouri, just not sold on Missouri this year. Iowa with Luka Garza, I think we'll be able to move on against Seton Hall, and then Texas can beat Rutgers. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we have Gonzaga moving on here past Kansas. And then I'm going to go with Luka Garza and Iowa here moving on past Texas. If Texas beats Baylor tonight, I may change that and have Texas moving on, but I just don't believe in Texas as a April team. And by April team, I mean like Final Four championship team. I think Iowa has a better chance to get there. But that sets up Gonzaga versus Iowa here in the Elite Eight, and I think that Gonzaga will move on to the Final Four. This was like a national championship game at one point in the preseason, the early couple parts of the week before, or early parts of the season before Iowa has kind of fallen down just a little bit more to earth, down to a 3 seed. Now they're a 1 seed at one point this season. But then if we go over here to Region 2, we'll have Baylor moving on in the first round. Same thing with Xavier over BYU. Then West Virginia over Toledo. Now I'm going to go with Wisconsin also beating UAB here. Virginia Tech, I think, will be able to move on against Indiana, and then Tennessee will beat Grand Canyon. Then I'm going to go with Loyola Chicago here, moving on as the at-large team, a 10-7 upset over USC, and then Ohio State moving on over Louisiana. I think that's Lafayette. But then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we got Baylor moving on past Xavier. West Virginia, I think, can beat Wisconsin here. Wisconsin's just kind of falling a little bit recently. I think they made it up to a 2 seed at one point, now down to a 4. Then, Virginia Tech and Tennessee. I don't know if these two teams played earlier this season. I remember them playing. Don't quote me on that. I may be wrong, but I do think that Tennessee is a potential April team this year. I think that they can get the job done there over Virginia Tech. And then Ohio State will beat Loyola Chicago. Then Baylor will move on past West Virginia here to the Elite Eight. And then Tennessee, I think, will beat Ohio State. I just can't bring myself to make Ohio State have a deep run into the tournament. I know they're playing in the really tough Big Ten right now, but I don't know, it's just something about them. There's a couple of teams that I just don't believe in. There's a couple of teams that I do believe in that a lot of other people don't, kind of like Rutgers, and I didn't have them moving on past Texas, but I just can't bring myself to put Ohio State there. That may bite me in the actual tournament itself, but it's just one of those teams I just can't get behind this year. But then Baylor and Tennessee, obviously we're going to have Baylor here moving on to the Final Four, so that Tennessee-Ohio State game is pretty moot. And then if we go down here to Region 3, we're going to have Michigan moving on past UMBC. Louisville, I think, can beat San Diego State. Then we'll have Creighton moving on past St. Bonaventure. Texas Tech, I think, can beat Liberty here. Then we're going to go with Purdue over LSU and Virginia over Navy. Then we're going to go with a slight upset here with Connecticut over Colorado, and then Alabama over Cleveland State. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we got Michigan beating Louisville in a rematch of that 2013 National Championship game that did not happen. And then Texas Tech, I think, will beat Creighton here. Then I'm going to go with an upset. We're going to do it in a rematch of that crazy 2019 Elite Eight game between Purdue and Virginia that I got to witness. I think Purdue will get their revenge here and move on to the Sweet 16 as a 6-3, and then Alabama will beat Connecticut. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we will have Michigan falling to Texas Tech here. I'm going to go with a 4-1 upset. I believe in Texas Tech a lot this year. Michigan, I mean, they only have the one loss to Minnesota this year, but they have a COVID pause right now. I'm not sure when that's going to end, and I just believe Texas Tech is on a roll right now. They're another one of those teams that I believe in as a potential sleeper in the tournament as a 4 seed. Then I'm going to go with Alabama moving on here past Purdue, and that sets up a really good matchup here of Texas Tech and Alabama, two of my favorite teams so far in this college basketball season. Texas Tech and Alabama. Who do I want to go to the Final Four? You know what? I'm just going to go with Texas Tech. I believe in Chris Beard that he brought that team to the national championship game a couple of years ago, I think as a 3 seed, and I think he can do it again here as a 4 seed. Really believe in that program. Texas Tech moving on to the Final Four as a 4 seed. Then if we go over here to the Region 4, we'll have Villanova moving on past South Dakota. Minnesota, I think, can beat Boise State here. Then Florida State will beat the winner of Stanford and Colorado State, which I don't know who's going to win that one, but it won't matter. Then Oklahoma will beat UC Irvine. Then I'm going to go with Florida moving on here past St. Louis. Illinois will beat Wofford, and then Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State will move on here past Oregon. And then Houston will move on past Sam Houston State. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we got Villanova moving on past Minnesota. Oklahoma, I think, can beat Florida State. I really like Florida State, but I can't ignore the resume that Oklahoma has built over these last couple of weeks. I think they beat 4 straight top 10 teams over this past couple of weeks before losing to Texas Tech last night, which is no shame, especially on the road at Texas Tech. I got to give some respect to Oklahoma. Oklahoma, kind of like Ohio State, is just one of those teams over the course of the year that I just couldn't get behind, but I can't ignore the run that they're on. I'm putting them in the Sweet 16. Then we're going to have Illinois here moving on past Florida, and then Houston moving on past Oklahoma State. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we will have Villanova here moving on past Oklahoma, and then Illinois moving on past Houston. I am back on that Illinois train. I never left, but that team was starting to get a little bit too inconsistent, but I am back on that train after them beating Iowa. I am a huge fan of Illinois this season with Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Cockburn. I think they're going to go to the Final Four here and beat Villanova as a 3 seed. So in the Final Four, we're going to have 2 number 1 seeds, a 3 seed, and a 4 seed. Gonzaga versus Illinois, I am going to go with a switch right here, and I'm going to go with Illinois going on to the national championship game over Gonzaga. These past couple of bracketologies have always had Gonzaga and Baylor. Why not switch it up here, and why not go with the team that I really believe could win a national championship this year with a National Player of the Year contender in Ayo Dosunmu? I'm going to put them in the championship game here. And then they are going to face Baylor, who I think can beat Texas Tech. And then Baylor versus Illinois in the national championship game. These 2 teams played earlier this season, which I mean Baylor and Texas Tech did as well, and Baylor won that game. But Baylor versus Illinois, I am going to go with Baylor, who did win that game that they played earlier this year, and I think that they could win this one as well. So there we have it. That is my NCAA tournament prediction. It's just crazy having Illinois in the championship game over Gonzaga, but it's just the way that I feel right now. So there we have it. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and a subscribe if you did. And I will be doing a NCAA tournament, not an NCAA tournament ticket giveaway because that's not happening this year, but I might be doing a giveaway of maybe like $25 or $50 gift card of some sort, like an Amazon or something like that. We'll figure it out. But I'll be doing that a little bit around mid-February, so be on the lookout for that video, and I will see you all later. Thanks for watching.